So horizontal lines have equations that look like this. It might be y is equal to 7 or 4y plus 3 is equal to 2. What do they have in common? The only variable we see here is a y. Horizontal lines do have a y-intercept, but they have a slope of 0. Remember that slope, m, is rise over run. Now, if you've got a horizontal line, there's no rise. To go from any point on the line to any other point on the line, the y value doesn't change. So rise has a value of 0. It doesn't matter what number the run is, 0 divided by any number is still going to be 0. Again, notice now that I've drawn a horizontal line, you can clearly see that, of course, it crosses the y-axis. There is a y-intercept. We can think of horizontal lines as having the form y is equal to 0x plus b. So the slope is 0, which is why we don't see x in any of our equations for horizontal lines. And y is equal to whatever number it is, in this case 7. Y is equal to the intercept, the y-intercept. For vertical lines, on the other hand, we have equations such as x is equal to -3 or 6 minus 3x equals 0. What do these two have in common? The only variable that shows up is the x. Now, vertical lines aren't functions. They fail the vertical line test. More than one y value for a given value of x. But we want to consider them anyway. Vertical lines do not have a y-intercept. Vertical lines, like this one, don't have a y-intercept. They don't cross the y-axis. So we want to avoid saying that the y-intercept is equal to 0 because 0 is a number. What's happening here is that there is none. We can say that there is no y-intercept or simply indicate none. Of course, there's one exception to this. If I have the line x is equal to 0, it sits right on top of the y-axis. So every point on the y-axis is a y-intercept. But that's an unusual outside case. Now, as for the slope is undefined. Once again, slope is rise over run. So if I look at my vertical line, I notice that as I move from point to point, so between any 2 points on the vertical line, the rise will have a number. The difference in y values is non-zero. So this is some number. But the run, as I move from one point to another on the vertical line, is 0. I'm not moving left to right at all. And the problem here is that division by 0 isn't legal in math. So as a result, the slope is undefined. Let's look at the same horizontal and vertical lines that were on the previous slide. So we'll look at y is equal to 7, 4y plus 3 is equal to 2. Those are both horizontal lines. Let's start with y is equal to 7. What is the slope? Well, again, we can consider this as being in the form y is equal to mx plus b, where m has a value of 0. Or we can just recognize that since this is a horizontal line, the slope must be 0. What is the y-intercept? The y-intercept is the value of b, so in this case, the y-intercept is 7. For this line, it might help to draw it first and then determine what the slope and y-intercept are. What does it look like? Well, here it is. This is a picture of the line y is equal to 7. What you notice is that regardless of the value for x, whether x is 1, 2, 5, or -4, the value for y is always the same. The value for y is always 7. So as soon as I see that I have a horizontal line, I know my slope is 0, and I can see the y-intercept. The y-intercept is the 0.07, or I can just write b is equal to 7. Let's look at 4y plus 3 equals 2. Well, first we have to isolate y. So we find that 4y is equal to 2 minus 3, which is -1. Dividing both sides by 4 gives us -1/4. So once again, because it's a horizontal line, we find that the slope is 0 and the y-intercept is negative 1/4. Once again, it might help to have drawn the line first. There it is, just below the x-axis. Now for our vertical lines. First one is x is equal to negative 3. Let's draw this one right away. And here it is. For every value of y, x has a value of negative 3. It's a vertical line. What's its slope? Well, the slope is undefined. And the y-intercept, do you see it crossing the y-axis? There's nowhere that I can circle. There is no y-intercept. So for y-intercept or b, we would just indicate none. Similarly, if we look at 6 minus 3x equals 0, solving for x gives us negative 3x is equal to negative 6, and dividing both sides by negative 3 gives me x is equal to positive 2. What does this look like? Here it is. This is the line x is equal to 2. Regardless of the value of y, whether the value of y is 0, positive 7, negative 3, the value for x is always positive 2. Again, since this is a vertical line, the slope is undefined, and the y-intercept, well, there isn't one, so I'll write none.